What's good, YouTube? Flash Beats back for another video, man. Um, well, right now in Chicago Sky News, we're going to talk a little bit of Chicago Sky. There's been an article that has come out, which has just shown that maybe the moves that current GM has made, Jeff, with the last name that I could hardly pronounce, who I've been calling Spicoli, not to be disrespectful, but I'm kind of like an 80s guy. So the first thought that comes to my mind when I look at the move that he made is I think of Jeff Spicoli, the character that Sean Penn played in Fast Times at Ridgemont High. Now, if you've never seen this movie, that's one of the movies you got to catch. But at any rate, coming from Woman's Fast Break, I believe this is a Sports Illustrated article, if I'm not mistaken, which is called Chicago Sky Fans Roast Team After New Head Coach Report Surfaces. Okay, so after firing Coach Teresa Witherspoon, which nobody understands why they did it. I mean, we're talking about nobody pretty much on the team that I know of, as well, or at least important players who are going to be part of the future, as well as other coaches around the league who respect her, understand what happened. So apparently, this is the deal. It says that Chicago Sky's fan base doesn't seem keen about the news report regarding their potential head coach. According to this article here, much of the women's basketball community was surprised when the Chicago Sky announced the firing of first-year head coach Teresa Witherspoon after the end of their 2024 season. The intrigue around this decision turned into fascination once the Chicago Sun-Times reporter Annie Costable revealed in an October 9th article that, according to league sources, Witherspoon had lost the locker room because of a culture that catered to the needs of a few players. A culture that catered to the needs of a few players. Now, this gets my mind spinning and wondering. But if you look at sports in general, whether it's the NFL, whether it's the NBA, this is not really an uncommon thing in general, where the culture caters to a few players, because typically on teams, teams generally have either one star or two or three, and that's generally what the culture is kind of catered to. I mean, this isn't anything. Just this statement in and of itself is nothing unusual. But at any rate, they said she lost the locker room because of that. Wonder who those players are and what the deal is. Excuse me, y'all. Regardless of why Witherspoon was fired, they say, or how select members of the Sky felt about it, the bottom line is that the Sky are now seeking a new head coach for the 2025 NBA season. While many members of Chicago's fan base have expressed a desire for Chicago to pursue current Connecticut head son coach, why are people calling me right now when I'm at work? Head coach Stephanie White, which would be a good pickup, I'm sure most people would agree with. Now, I don't know about the players, but, really you can't worry about the players. You kind of let them work out their relationship as that goes. But you pick someone who is qualified. And obviously, Stephanie White would be more than qualified. And she proved that, over the last couple of years when she's was the head coach of the Connecticut Sun. Now, why the Sun would let her go is strange to me. An October 15th article from Costable conveyed that another coach can be considered a current frontrunner for the Sky's head job. Now, this is where it gets a little crazy here. According to multiple league sources, the Sky have shown interest in former Sparks coach Curt Miller, with preliminary discussions occurring between the two parties Constable wrote. Now, this is interesting. Why? Like as you guys know, I'm kind of new to following the W closely like this and reporting on it for sure. But one thing I've heard throughout my time doing this from multiple fans of the W who've been fans for years, who put the time in, is that Curt Miller is not a very good coach. I've heard that he's trash. I've heard that he's an idiot. I've heard that he doesn't know what he's doing. I heard that he doesn't know how to use, like especially big time Rickea Jackson fans who were following it. They said that this guy had no idea what to do with her. And, so it's interesting that Jeff, and you never know a lot of times, man, with these coaches and these GMs, sometimes these guys are just buddies of one another. And maybe he heard Curt Miller was getting fired, and so he thought maybe I can make a move. I don't know. Now, me personally, when I think about it, like ideally in my mind, I automatically think the best coaches to get are female coaches for the league. But I will admit, I'm not really familiar with other instances where there were male coaches who succeeded. I heard that Bill Laimbeer actually did well. I've heard that Michael Cooper did well with the Sparks. So, I could be off on that. But I tend to see coaches as being people who it's very important that they understand the players, that they understand issues players may have, and so on. So I tend to believe, female coaching female, or women coaching women is best, and men coaching men is best. But who knows? That may not be the case. I can be wrong about that. But Curt Miller is a guy that I think, most people would be scratching their head about. The article says Miller, who is 56 years old, is one of the most accomplished coaches in the WNBA with a 165, 141 overall record, 6 straight postseason appearances with the Sun, and 2 Coach of the Year awards. Okay. Well, I guess if you look at it from just strictly the standpoint of the resume, that's not a bad resume. I guess that would be his argument. I'm just trying to imagine from what it appears, what we appear to know about Angel Reese, what we appear to know about Camila Cardoso, what we appear to know about Kennedy Carter, who's an interesting person that I want to talk about a little bit, how they would mesh with him. But, you talk about a guy who has over 300 games coaching. Maybe he's familiar with dealing with women and so on. I don't know. Miller was the Los Angeles Sparks head coach last season, but the two parties mutually parted ways after Los Angeles finished with a league worst 8-32 record, which is deplorable. But that puts them in the the race for Paige Beckers. You can get that, and then it's like, thank you, Miller, probably, right? But it says Sky fans don't seem to be happy about their franchise targeting Miller, especially when you think about the fact that Teaspoon was liked by the well, that's the part that I'm adding, that she was liked by the fan base for the most part. I mean, you have some critics. No one is without critics. And it's not to say she did everything proper, but I think she was seen as a first-year coach who deserved a second year, and I thought so. She damn sure did better than Miller, So you got a number of different statements from people on X considering the Sky to be unserious. Another fan noted, if they hire Curt Miller, I'm going to be so effing mad. Yes, even more mad than I have been. Oh my God, F you, Pagliocca. Jeff Pagliocca, I believe that's his name. That's why I just Spicoli, but Pagliocca. I will throw eggs at everybody in the front office if y'all hire Curt Miller. Be so for real. A Chicago Sky, another fan. These are all fans, saying these different things here, according to this article. It's called the Becky Hammond hate account. Fans are funny, man. Time will tell whether Miller ends up coaching Chicago next season. So that's the thing about the Chicago Sky, man. Um, I don't get them, but like I said, this is my first year following closely, so I'm right now kind of taking in information as I go along. Um, I felt like Teresa Witherspoon did a really good job from what I can see. Now, this is what some of this stuff leads me to believe. And I hate to say it, and I brought this up a lot. I can't help but think that some of the stuff has a lot to do with not only the players who didn't get to play, like the Isabel Harrisons and the Dana Evans, but for some reason I'm thinking there's something with Kennedy Carter, and the reason being is there were times during the season, and I recall it was a game against the New York Liberty, where Kennedy Carter did not start. And this was during the time after she was named the starter, and she had some really good games under her belt. And we played the New York Liberty, and I recall her not starting, her being brought in like around halftime. Okay. And then I recall a game after this where she went off for either in the high 20s or 30 points. It was immediately after that game against the Liberty that Chicago had lost, and she goes to X, talking about Kennedy Carter, and she puts, she said, "Don't ever doubt me," Mama, something like that. There was clearly at Teresa Witherspoon, which shows Witherspoon was probably disciplining her. And this could have been something, and you never know with the players like the Isabel Harrisons, and um, Dana Evans. You never know; they could be going to Jeff and talking to him, because some organizations, the general manager's right there talking to the players all the time, and maybe they complained about this, or maybe Jeff was just looking and no one did complain, and he felt in his mind that there was not enough accountability, there was not enough discipline. Well, I mean, that could be true, but you see also, this is in society in general. Men and women sometimes differ in this regard. You know, and Spoon maybe is just not that type of person where she just yells at you, berates you, this and that. Maybe she does it a different way. As you saw, if you bench Kennedy Carter, for example, that's a form of accountability, and oftentimes that's actually more effective than yelling at somebody or that sort of thing. I'm just going to base off what I saw. Um, Maybe it wasn't Kennedy Carter. I just tend to believe it probably was. Because when coaches are in a situation where it's difficult for them, like it's usually because you're dealing with a player that you need who may not be doing what you want, you know what I mean, or carrying themselves. And I'm sorry, but I tend to uh, use people's reputation. Reputations precede people. And what we know about Kennedy Carter is she had problems in other places. Actually, Curt Miller is the guy who had cut Kennedy Carter, and which led to her being out of the league for a few seasons. So that's interesting when we look at that. Also, does Jeff Spaglioka or Spicoli? Let me stop saying this name wrong. I know that offends some of y'all, right? Paglioka, I think his name is. Okay. So, does Jeff want to keep Kennedy Carter? If you're interviewing guys that let her go in the past, is Kennedy Carter part of his future? Um, it's a question. How does he really feel about Angel Reese? Knowing that he has to be aware of how Angel Reese felt about Spoon. Does he see Angel Reese as being the centerpiece of his team? Does he think she's good enough? Because Angel Reese is the type of player that everybody doesn't see as being good enough to be like the centerpiece of a franchise. Some people don't know how to project or don't care to project what she can be if she puts in the work. And maybe he's looking at what she is now and he thinks, well, if she clearly doesn't have the offense to do it. And he might in his mind think Kitty Carter's a friggin' nutcase. So how do we fix this? Or how do we build on this? Maybe he has a completely different vision. Does that make sense to me? No, but I don't know this guy. Firing Spoon like that made no sense to me. I don't see any world where she's not given another season. Like, you can call her in the office and say, listen, I want to see more accountability. I want to see more of this, more of that. Now, I'm also inclined to believe there could have been those types of conversations, and maybe Spoon just said, I don't do that. Maybe I don't yell at people. I don't. Whatever it is that they have a problem with, she just doesn't do that. And he wants someone that does. What I'm trying to figure out is Curt Miller the answer? Is that the accountability guy? What happened last season? So we're going to see, man, how this goes. My hunch, and I don't know, okay? I don't pretend to know. I tend to believe Kennedy Carter was probably breaking some rules, not doing things that she was supposed to do. This is what I believe. I don't know. Could have been Angel, though. I don't know. Angel doesn't have that reputation. Could have been some others. Maybe coming in late, maybe not showing up for this, not showing up for that. And I'm sorry. I have to look at the amount of games she missed when she became a starter. I also have to look at the history. And maybe he doesn't like the way Kennedy was dealt with, was handled. And maybe he's just the type that rather just not deal with that. And Spoon is like, no, I think we can make this work. This girl is too damn good. And that's really the reason why I think it has to have something to do with her. She's one of them players that is too good to be taking this long to make sure she's signed she's just too good for all this stuff. So she has to be, I think, the center of the piece, and I think the center of some of the problems. And I think the GM is looking at it like he's trying to weigh whether or not she's worth it. Because some people aren't worth the headache, and some are. Depends on how good they are. Me personally, there's no way I let go of Kennedy Carter. I think she's too good. I'm going to get her whatever psychological help, whatever we can do to try to get her right. That's what That's what I would do. But that's me, because I value the talent over all the other stuff. Now, I can have a boiling point when it comes to headache, but at the same time, I don't really know the details of what happened. But that's what it sounds like. Doesn't sound like it can only be the way, if these reports are true, that some players have problems with the way the culture catered to a few people. Then what? It has to be either Camilla or Angel or Kennedy, right? Because these were your three best players. While Mabry was in there before she left, and I'm sure she has something to do with the problem as well. Mabry may have had this type of relationship with Jeff, and she was complaining, and this led to her wanting to be traded or whatever. They trade her, then she goes to the Sun, and she's balling out. For the most part, and they end up being a game away from the finals. Maybe Jeff's looking at that and is wondering, why didn't you work things out better with Mabry? Why didn't you make Mabry want to stay? And why'd you only focus on the rookies? And why'd you only focus on Kennedy? It could be something like that. I don't know. But we will see. And we will keep track of this right here to see what Jeff and Chicago Sky does. But right now, this is where we are. Angel's out and about doing her thing. Camilla's over, I believe, in China. Right? In China, I believe, balling. Kennedy's probably in China as well. I've heard some rumblings about they could possibly pursue Kelsey Plum or whatever. If you can, go get her. But if it's up to Plum, I don't know if she chooses Chicago or other destinations. Chicago, they have a ways to go as far as fixing their reputation. This stuff looks bad. And some of the stuff I've heard leading to why Elliot Copper and others left. Those things are bad, you know. And we'll see, man. So, with that, my people, we are out of here. Don't forget to like.